Inspiring true story. Grandmother's beach house revealed amazing transformation with 30 friends. Ellen stood on her weathered porch, staring at the chipping paint of her beloved beach house. The salty air whipped through her hair, mixed with the scent of her late husband's favorite roses. For 75 years, laughter echoed through these walls, but now, silence filled the hollow rooms where memories lingered like ghosts. She felt the weight of the world crashing on her, repairs piling up and bills that never seemed to end, all while her heart ached for the bonds that had once made her feel whole. At the same time, she felt a flicker of hope. This would be the year she would invite her 30 childhood friends for a reunion. They had scattered across the country, their lives taking them on different paths. Ellen had watched them rise and fall. Some embraced their dreams while others were lost in sorrow's grip. She hoped the magic of the beach house could rekindle connection and laughter among them just one more time. Ellen's hands trembled as she picked up her phone, dialing the first friend she could think of, Joan. Her heart raced when she heard the familiar voice. As their conversation unfolded, Ellen's excitement grew. She could almost hear the joyful shrieks of their younger selves, echoing through time and reminding her of simpler days. Each call brought her cautious optimism. All those voices streaming into her world would fill her heart and the creaky walls of her home with warmth once more. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The big day arrived, the sun shining brightly as Ellen placed a big pot of clam chowder on the stove, the aroma swirling through the air like a warm hug. Friends started arriving, each stepping onto her porch, where everything felt familiar yet so different. Hugs and laughter mingled with anxious glances as unspoken differences hung like storm clouds overhead. Ellen watched as her friends exchanged nervous words. Some had worn success like a badge of honor, while others felt the harsh grip of life's inequalities weighing heavily on their fragile spirits. As the evening progressed, old rivalries simmered back to the surface, thickening the air. Ellen remained hopeful, believing these cherished souls might finally mend their broken ties. Just as the clamor around her reached a boiling point, dark clouds drifted in, casting a shadow over the gathering. The wind picked up, matching the growing tension among her friends. Ellen felt an urgency rising within her. This wasn't just a reunion, it was a chance to heal, to rebuild. The storm mirrored the emotional chaos swirling like a tempest, pushing her friends to confront their pasts and the choices that had created distance between them. Thunder rumbled loudly, breaking the moment of confrontation. Ellen's heart raced. Would they face this storm as one or allow their wounds to shatter the fragile peace she had worked to restore? She stood firm on her crumbling porch, watching her world collide. The next moments would decide everything. Would old grievances keep them apart, or could they find a way to rally? As lightning danced in the sky, illuminating the deep crevices of their hearts, Ellen inhaled sharply, praying for the miracle of connection amidst the storm. The future of her beach house and the memories held within it awaited their answer. The storm broke with ferocity, drenching the beach house in sheets of rain. Ellen watched, heart pounding, as the dark clouds opened up above her. She could feel the swirling emotions in the air, an electric tension washing over the gathering beneath her roof. Thunder rolled like a warning, and she knew time was running out. The evening was precariously balanced between chaos and reconciliation. Everyone, can I have your attention? Ellen's voice rang out above the noise, almost swallowed by the wind. The audible crackle in her throat caught, and she cleared it, trying to regain her footing. I know things feel heavy right now, but we're all here for a reason, aren't we? There was a brief lull in the tension as eyes turned toward her, curiosity mingling with skepticism. She stepped away from the railing and moved closer to her friends, grounding herself in the tangled emotions. I wanted this reunion to remind us of who we were together. We were young, vibrant, and filled with dreams. What happened to that spirit? Her hands trembled as she clutched her heart, but she powered through. This house has been our refuge. I need each of you to open the door to your hearts, if only for tonight. At first, silence filled the space, broken only by the sound of rain battering against the roof. Then Joan, her oldest friend, stepped forward, her brow furrowed with concern. But how can we forget, Ellen? The years haven't been kind to any of us. And they haven't been easy for you, either, Ellen replied, taking a step closer. We've all faced our share of heartache. But carrying those burdens alone isn't freedom. Let us find a way to lift each other, to share in our struggles, and perhaps even lighten the load. The group shifted uneasily, the shadows of unspoken truths lingering. Then, from the back, someone spoke up. It was Keith, once a promising artist, now visibly weary. I thought this would be a celebration, but all I feel is regret. There's no joy in remembering what once was. His voice cracked, and Ellen caught the flicker of vulnerability that reminded her how they all hurt. She nodded. This was the moment she needed. What if we share a memory, one that made us laugh, one that connects us? Let us strip away the weight of what has held us apart. A murmur of agreement swept through the group as Ellen watched her friends exchange glances. Slowly, one by one, the stories began to unfold, laughter intermingling with tears like the downpour outside. They reminisced about wild summer nights, the stupid things they did together, friendships that had once been forged in trust. Ellen's heart swelled with hope as barriers started to fade, the warmth of camaraderie breaking through the shadows. The wind howled outside, but inside the beach house, there was life. Friends were leaning into one another, pulling up old memories, and finding common ground. Ellen felt a wave of warmth as the joy was rekindled, but just as she thought they were through the storm, a loud crack of lightning lit up the room. Suddenly, the lights flickered ominously before plunging them into darkness. Gasps filled the void, tension flaring again. Chaos threatened to drag them back into separation. Ellen! Joan shouted, her voice trembling in the blackness. What do we do now? Ellen's heart raced. The night felt fragile again. We stick together. She shouted back, eyes scanning the room, searching for the determined faces she loved. We find a way through this. Hold hands, see each other. But would her plea be enough to push them through the darkness, to navigate the fear that crept in? The rain drummed passionately outside, but would their voices echo in unity? The storm raged on, and their journey toward healing hung precariously in the balance. Would they emerge transformed, or would old wounds drag them down again? A heavy silence enveloped the room as shadows danced ominously against the wall. Ellen could feel the rising panic. The open vulnerability they had just begun to nurture was now threatened by darkness again. They were so close, yet so far from truly reconnecting. Stay calm. She called out, her voice steady, anchoring against the wind's howling scream. She felt a hand slide into hers. It was Keith. We can do this, right? You told us to share memories. Let us make new ones, even in the dark. Right. Ellen exclaimed, encouraged by his bravery. How about a story, right here? Just like when we were kids. Who's got something to share? A collective breath seemed to whisper through the room. One of the young voices piped up, breaking through the tension. It was Mia. I remember when we all snuck out to the beach after curfew. We thought we'd get caught, but instead, we just laughed until we cried. Laughter erupted, a beacon in the darkness. Even amidst the chaos outside, Ellen could hear movement, people blending laughter with tears, their tensions relenting just a bit. One by one, stories spilled into the night, a broken but healing chain of light. Hear that thunder? Joan said, taking a breath. It reminds me of the time we watched that storm roll in and ended up sheltered under these very same roofs, scaring each other with ghost stories. Ghost stories? Keith interjected, a grin breaking his pensive facade. You mean that time you got freaked out by your own shadow? I'm still sorry for throwing that pillow at you. Everyone chuckled, memories weaving them together like a tapestry once again. The crack of thunder no longer felt ominous. It merely added a powerful backdrop to their nostalgia. In the dark, Ellen felt levity rising, confirming that they were finding their way back to one another. Moments passed, and the laughter began to fade into sweet, shared silence. Ellen felt the heaviness of what they concealed shift just enough to allow hope to slip through. She felt connected, as if the storm outside was now their own, turbulent yet exhilarating, driving them forward into the unknown. "All right," Ellen said, her voice clear as the storm rumbled on. "Let us light each other up instead of letting the darkness consume us. Remember, we've been through storms before. We can get through this one." In the distance, a flicker of light suddenly illuminated the room as someone found a flashlight. A faint beam danced over smiling faces, reflecting the spark of courage they were igniting in one another. "Look at us!" cried Mia, her spirits soaring. "We're a lighthouse in this storm. We've got light." "Yeah, but what if it dies again?" a voice asked quietly, fear still clinging to some hearts. Ellen squeezed Keith's hand tightly, willing everyone to trust. "We'll pass the flashlight around. When it flickers, we'll remember the light wasn't just in the tool, it was in us. We're not just lighting the way, we're sharing our fears, our laughter, our love. We are each other's light." The storm continued to rage outside, but inside, a warmth began to envelop them. The connection felt vital again, full of life and hope, but as they gathered closer, drawing strength from one another, the lights flickered, never more than a few seconds from going dark again. Another crack of lightning lit up the beach house, and Ellen's heart leaped into her throat. In the distance, another clap of thunder reverberated, but this time, it was followed by an unexpected sound, a voice high and clear, echoing from outside, singing a familiar tune. Would it be the song of hope that united them, or a surprise that pulled them back apart just when they thought they were safe? The voice floated in from the outside, threading its way through the chaos of thunder and wind. It was soft yet strong, and it felt like a balm, soothing the deep-rooted fears that had taken root in Ellen's heart. The tune they all recognized, a cherished melody from their youth, began to stir up a whirlwind of memories. Eyes widened, they exchanged glances, a mix of confusion and intrigue dancing in the air. "Who's that?" Keith whispered, the warmth of Ellen's grip tightening around his hand. "It sounds like Amy?" Mia ventured with hesitant hope. Another crack of lightning painted a vibrant flash across the room, illuminating their faces momentarily, and then darkness swallowed them again, leaving just the haunting echo of that melody stirring the air. Ellen's heart raced. She remembered Amy's carefree spirit and infectious laughter. They'd all shared secrets and dreams on this very beach. But why was she out there, singing, in the middle of this storm? "Shoo, everyone. Listen." Ellen urged softly, and the room turned silent, anticipation hanging like a fragile thread. The voice continued, weaving tales of summer nights, adventures, and promises of forever. With each note, the tension melted like ice in the warmth of newfound warmth and connection. They listened, wrapped in a cocoon of memories, a reminder of what once was and what could be again. "It's her, it's definitely her." Mia gasped, her eyes wide. The others similarly perked up, glancing at each other with renewed vigor. The fear that had lingered now felt dwarfed by the love that swelled among them. "Should we join her?" Joan suggested, her voice filled with determination. "It feels like she's calling us." They brainstormed in hushed tones, the flashlights momentarily forgotten. The storm was raging outside, but Ellen felt a pull of unity urging them to embrace the chaos, not run from it. "We can't just sit here. Let us go." One by one, they stood up, the flickering light giving them just enough courage to move. Ellen led the way, Keith right beside her, grounding her with his presence. As they reached the front door, the wind howled ferociously, trying to deter them. But Ellen knew there was no turning back. This was an invitation, a chance to face their fears head-on. With each step, they made their way to the open door. Another clap of thunder shook the ground, but the song remained unwavering. It was a powerful anthem of resilience, calling them outward. The storm raged, but Ellen felt the electric charge in the air. She held on to that flickering light of hope within her, knowing the connection they were rebuilding would only strengthen against the storm. Every step felt like an act of rebellion against the darkness that had threatened to swallow them whole. As they stepped outside, the wind whipped around them, a wild caress that felt like freedom. Ellen's breath caught in her throat. There, in the rain, illuminated under a nearby street lamp, was Amy. "Come sing with me," she called out, her face aglow with joy matched only by the resilience in her song. What if a voice interrupted from behind, uncertainty creeping in again? What if we get swept away? Then let us drown together. Ellen shouted back, laughter breaking through the tension again. As they gathered closer to Amy, they could feel the old bonds form anew, weaving through the storm like strong threads. The rain mixed with their laughter, and they were no longer separate, a community rising above the tempest. But just as they finally started to merge their voices in harmony with the storm, a blinding flash illuminated the sky, revealing a shocking figure just beyond the beach house. Who or what were they, and would it unite or further divide them? The figure stood still, shadows dancing ominously in the flickering light. Ellen squinted, heart racing, trying to make sense of what she saw. Panic rippled through the group. "Who is that?" Mia whispered, tightening her grip on Joan's arm. Ellen took a step forward, rain pouring down her face, mingling with her fear. The silhouette was indistinct, but there was an undeniable familiarity about it. Could it be someone from their past? "Amy!" Keith shouted, his voice cutting through the storm. "Is that you?" The figure stepped closer, and the rain let up just enough for them to catch a glimpse. It wasn't just one person, it was two. Ellen couldn't believe her eyes when she saw a wet, wind-blown silhouette of someone almost floating beside Amy. It was Ellie, their childhood friend who had moved away a decade ago. "Ellie!" Ellen gasped, her breath escaping her in disbelief. "It really is you." "Yeah, it's me." Ellie shouted back, laughter bubbling beneath her words, joy intertwined with the chaos. "I came home for the summer and followed your voices. I thought I'd find you all in the old beach house," but she gestured toward the storm. "Turns out, I was a little late for that." They all rushed forward, embracing Ellie, the warmth of nostalgia pouring over them like the rain. The laughter returned, free and pure, coiling around Ellen's heart like a tight hug. "We've missed you so much," Mia said, beaming up at her. They had shared secrets and adventures together by this very beach. "Are we really singing again?" Ellie asked, her eyes glinting with tears and happiness. "In this crazy storm of all places?" "Yes. It's a reunion," Ellen announced, her heart pounding, a newfound strength surging through her. With tentative voices, they began again. The melody, rich and vibrant, rose above the tumult, stitching together their stories, old and new. The storm pulsed around them like a symphony, each crash of thunder becoming their drumbeat as they sang louder, bolder, but then a low rumble echoed through the air. The ground trembled beneath them. Ellen paused mid-verse, her breath halting in her chest. "What was that?" she asked, fear creeping back in. "It can't be good," Joan murmured, scanning the surroundings. The winds picked up again, swirling violently, as if the storm were retaliating against their joy. "Keep singing," Amy urged, her voice steady and strong. "We can't let it take away our hope." They continued, stubbornly pouring their hearts out into the night, even as the storm raged on. And yet, that unseen force loomed, something lurking just beyond the edges of their laughter. Suddenly, the ground shook once more, and the figure appeared again, stepping into the light of the street lamp. This time, it wasn't haunting, it was demanding. "Stop this at once." A voice boomed over the song, commanding and fierce, but tinged with desperation. Ellen stumbled back. Who could challenge their joy like this? As they looked up, they realized the storm wasn't just nature acting wild, it was something more. And their singing, their gathering, had attracted an attention they might not have been ready to face. "Who are you?" Ellen asked, her voice trembling yet defiant. As the figure stepped fully into the light, their identity was revealed, sparking a whirlwind of emotions in Ellen's heart, but also a deep sense of uncertainty. Would this encounter lead to a deeper divide, or was it somehow meant to bring them closer? In the eye of the storm, answers would come, but at what cost? The figure in the light was a man, his face weathered and familiar, yet shadowed by anger. "You shouldn't be here," he shouted, rain cascading down his features, obscuring his expression. Ellen's heart pounded like a drum as she squinted to get a better look. "Who are you?" she pressed, feeling a mix of dread and determination coursing through her. "Aaron," he replied, the name hanging heavy in the air. He was their childhood neighbor, the boy who had always seemed so full of life, always leading the way in their reckless adventures. But now, the spark was gone, replaced with something darker. "How can you be angry?" Keith interjected, stepping slightly forward, protective of their reunion. "We're just here to sing, to celebrate together." "The beach is not ours to celebrate anymore," Aaron said, his voice breaking slightly. "It's cursed, a storm that never ends. You'll bring it back if you keep singing." The group fell silent, the rhythm of their heartbeats echoing in the heavy atmosphere. Ellen exchanged glances with Amy and Mia, confusion clouding their joy. "Cursed," she echoed, trying to make sense of Aaron's words but feeling the weight of the storm intensifying around them. "Yes. The more you shout and sing, the more violent it gets. This beach it never forgave. It holds on to pain." He stared at each of them, his fervent gaze searching for understanding. Ellen could see hints of hurt behind his fierceness, but the storm seemed to push him further into despair. Ellie stepped forward, hope alight in her eyes. "But this is our home. We came to remember what we lost, and maybe heal those wounds. Isn't that worth celebrating?" Aaron shook his head, and the wind howled in response, swirling debris around them. "You can't just rewrite history with a song. The storms come to remind us of who we've lost. You don't understand what it took to keep it at bay." The fear thickened in Ellen's throat. The memories rushed back, those blissful summers filled with laughter, shared dreams, and whispered promises under the stars. But alongside that joy was a shadow of loss and ghosts they hadn't yet faced. "What happened?" she asked, her voice now softer, laced with compassion. "What do you mean by who you've lost?" Aaron's features softened, and for a moment, she saw the boy who used to laugh in the sunlight. "Our friends, our family," he whispered. "They left or they didn't come back. The ocean took them, and we made a pact to forget, to stay away. But you're stirring it all up again. You can't fight what's already been lost." Ellen's heart ached with understanding. This was deeper than just fear, this was grief manifesting as anger. She took a deep breath, gathering the remnants of her courage. "We can't keep running away from it. Maybe we need to remember together. What if we sing, but we do it for them?" The group looked at her, contemplating. Their connection as friends rang louder than the thunder, yet the stakes felt impossibly high. Was this a fight they were ready to face? "Will you join us, Aaron?" Mia asked quietly, her voice steady and filled with sincerity. "We just want to honor our memories. Will you help us?" The storm picked up, the wind whipping around them, but the emotions held some promise of change. Aaron hesitated, his resolve wavering as he looked at the group, and at the old memories swirling in the air. Silence hung before the inevitable answer. Would they unite despite the storm? Or would the haunting past tear them apart once again? The air crackled with tension as everyone waited, hearts pounding in sync with the furious storm. Ellen's breath felt shackled, tight against her chest, as she watched Aaron wrestle with his pain. She could see that storm raging inside him, just as ferociously as the one overhead. Finally, he spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "You really don't have to do this, but we do," Keith insisted, stepping forward. "We can't let fear keep us from remembering our loved ones. We owe them that much." Ellen grabbed onto those words. Yes, they owed it to everyone they had lost. They owed it even to the boy who had stood by them in the past, the boy now swallowed by the shadows of grief. "We can be their voices," she pleaded, the conviction swelling inside her. Aaron's eyes darted to each face, searching for something: hope, understanding. It was hard to tell, but she noticed the way his shoulders began to sag, the storm inside him trembling just a fraction. What if he hesitated? What if the song reminds us of what was taken? Ellen held her breath as the uncertainty hung in the air, but she pressed on. "That's exactly why we should sing. We remember not to dwell in sorrow, but to keep their spirits alive. Mia took a deep step closer, reaching out to Aaron. Let us all sing together. Together, we can honor them. They are part of who we are, forever woven into these memories. For a moment, Aaron stood frozen, caught between his past and this group of friends, each rooted in shared dreams. They had braved summers brimming with wild laughter, and she could see that spark flickering in Aaron's eyes again. Fine, he said, voice steadying. But if the storm rises, if it gets too loud, if memories flare up too violently, we need to promise to stop. Deal. Ellen's heart filled with hope. The storm truly was outside, but it was nothing compared to the turmoil stirring within each of them. They gathered closer, forming a tight circle amidst the chaos. The ocean roared in protest, but they stood firm, bound by a shared purpose. Ellen felt the cool wind swirl around her, urging her to take that first leap. On the count of 3, she said, glancing at Mia and Keith. They nodded in unison, ready. 1. The air crackled with anticipation. 2. Ellen felt the warmth of their hands, the connection anchoring her. 3. They raised their voices, letting the song stretch out into the storm. Each note lifted higher, mingling with the wild sounds of nature. Ellen sang for the laughter of her childhood, for the names left unspoken, for the lost ones, a collective symphony of remembrance. As if the storm responded, it swirled more fiercely around them, but there was something in their unity that held it back. The droplets fell like a downpour, but their voices rang with power. Yet, suddenly, the wind howled, and a great wave surged forth, crashing toward the shore, an overwhelming force that felt alive. Fear rippled through the group as they locked eyes, which were sparks caught between disbelief and determination. What's happening? Amy shouted over the roaring chaos. The song wavered, faltering under the force of nature's response. Ellen's heart raced, the harmony of their voices struggling against the churning storm. She could sense their bond shaking under the pressure. Would they hold together against the tempest? Or would the storm shatter them apart when they needed each other most? As the wave approached, it felt like everything they had ever known hinged on this moment. And just then, amid the turmoil, a voice pierced through the voice of a forgotten friend, whispering through the rain, "Remember me." What revelation awaited them as they faced the fury of the ocean together? The wave loomed before them, cresting like a monster ready to swallow the world whole. Ellen's heart thundered in her chest, each beat a reminder of what they stood to lose. She looked around at her friends, their faces a mix of fear and fierce determination. The storm might be raging outside, but within their circle, something beautiful was unfolding. "Keep singing," she shouted, her voice rising above the roar of the wind, daring the storm to drown them out. They needed this, needed to remember that love could still echo even in the hardest moments. Together, their voices soared again, stronger this time. Ellen could feel the energy between them, an invisible thread binding them together, holding back the tide, if only for an instant. Keith fell into harmony with her. Mia's soft, clear tones lifted the group as they swelled into a collective spirit. The wave curled closer, but as they sang, the world felt brighter. It wasn't just a song, it was a lifeline. Each note carried their shared memories, the laughter, the tears, the lessons. Inside her, the storm began to settle. Ellen closed her eyes, pouring every ounce of love and loss into the air. And then, just as quickly as it had risen, the wave crashed down, but instead of roaring chaos, there was a moment of stillness. The water splashed over their feet, soaking their shoes, but the force of the wave was softened. It wrapped around them like a hug, surprising them all. "Did you see that?" Amy blinked, wide-eyed and breathless as she glanced over at Keith. "It didn't consume us. It responded to the song," he breathed, almost in disbelief. Ellen felt a spark of hope blossom in her chest. Maybe they had found a way to shine a light into the darkness. The storm still howled, but it no longer felt suffocating. Instead, it became a backdrop to the beauty they were creating, like an orchestra supporting a soloist. But just as the adrenaline surged, another whisper reached her through the downpour. This time, it was louder. "Do not forget me." Ellen's heart sank. The voice belonged to someone she thought she had long buried. The world around her faded as shadows crept into her mind, memories draped in sadness. It was the reminder that while they could honor the past, they could never escape its weight. "Aaron!" she shouted, breaking the spell. He met her gaze, his storm battling hers. She felt his conflict and saw the way the darkness threatened to overpower him. "You're not alone," she encouraged, reaching deeper into her own fears. "We're all here together." For a moment, Aaron's breath caught, and then the storm broke inside him too. "Let us keep singing," he suddenly cried, igniting a fire in the group. With renewed strength, they lifted their voices even higher, matching the ferocity of the skies. As they sang, they not only honored their lost, but transformed the grief into something powerful. They weren't just a group of friends fighting against the storm, they were a living tribute, breathing life into memories that could never really fade. But as the song soared, a crack of thunder boomed overhead. The storm was angry, wasn't he about to give up without a fight? And yet, Ellen felt it something new building. Amidst the chaos, a wave forward shimmered like sunlight breaking through the clouds. "Hold tight," she yelled as the next wave loomed. What truths lay hidden beneath the surface, waiting to be discovered as they faced the ultimate test? The roar of the next wave was deafening. It towered above them, a wall of water threatening to crash again, but Ellen felt something different this time. They had found their voice, their strength. The ground beneath her feet trembled, and yet she stood tall, rallying her friends around her once more. "Ready?" she called out, adrenaline surging through her veins. Each friend nodded, their eyes glinting with a mix of fear and defiance. This was more than a storm now, it was a chance to redefine their story, to reclaim their memories. They began singing again, the chorus ringing out like a battle cry. The melody twisted with the wind, weaving a tapestry of determination that tangled with the storm's fury. The waves danced in time with their voices, each rise and fall resonating with the flickering light of hope. With every note that floated above the crashing of the ocean, Ellen could feel the whispers from the past recede into the distance. Nothing could take away their joy now or their grief, for that matter. It was all entwined, tangled together like the sea and the shore. The music grounded them. Suddenly, a bright flash cut through the darkness as lightning lit up the sky. For a split second, everything became clear. They were not just fighting the storm, they were carving a space for themselves in the midst of it. The wave rose, higher than before, a feral beast ready to swallow them in a single gulp. But this time, there was no way they would back down. "Stay together. Keep the rhythm," Mia shouted, her voice cutting through the roar, directing the group as they leaned into each other. Ellen caught Aaron's eye and saw it, his fears melting, hope igniting. Their shared memories became tangible, spun into the air with every breath they took. With one final push, they unleashed their voices into the storm, singing not just for survival, but for everything they had lost and everything they still had. The waves crashed upon them, but instead of feeling overwhelmed, they began to feel light, everyone wrapped in an unseen blanket of resilience. Ellen's laughter bubbled out in the face of the chaos. "We're stronger than this." The realization swept through her like a tide. They were more than individuals, they were a unit, all tangled in the beauty of camaraderie and love. The storm roared back, but her spirit soared higher. Another roll of thunder shattered the moment, grounding them again in the reality of their situation. The ocean reacted, however. They could see it now, almost as if the water was respecting their essence. Instead of crashing mercilessly, it ebbed with rhythm, altering its once vicious intent, meshing with the soul-filled song from the shore. "It's working," Keith exclaimed, his face bright with exhilaration, but the tension in the air thickened as a new voice echoed above the tempest. It wasn't like the previous one, but it carried a deeper weight. "You must choose." Ellen's stomach flipped. Choices? What did that mean? The storm, no longer just a physical trial, had morphed into a harbinger of something greater. Their battle was shifting, and it filled her with both anticipation and dread. What would they have to confront next? What truths were hidden in that cryptic message? Find your truth. She could already feel the pull of the unknown, surging like the waves around them, pushing her toward a reckoning with the very memories they were trying to honor. The storm raged, but within her, a fire began to ignite. What truths lay buried, waiting for the flood to wash them clean? As the waves swelled and thunder echoed, Ellen felt a surge of energy rock her world. Find your truth. The words vibrated in her chest. The storm wasn't just an obstacle, it was a crucible for their transformation. They weren't merely singing, they were reclaiming their power, bringing light to the shadows that danced within. Ellen's gaze swept across her friends. In their eyes, she saw pain wrapped in laughter, resilience tangled with sorrow. They weren't just singing for those they had lost, they were singing to confront their own demons, acknowledge their fears, and rise above them. It was a call to face everything together. Fueled by this realization, Ellen squeezed Keith's hand tightly and shouted over the chaos, "We can't ignore the truth we carry. Let them hear our joy. Let our voices pierce through this storm." As if ignited by her words, they leaned into the vibrancy of the moment. Their voices melded in a powerful crescendo. Memories swirled in the air like mist, long-lost summers, laughter echoing under starlit skies, moments shared between friends that were sacred and fleeting. They weren't backing down. They were stepping forward. The ocean surged, responding to their unity. Each note they sang splashed against the waves, as if they were chiseling away at the layers of grief that had accumulated over the years. Ellen felt a weight lift, the laughter from childhood echoing between them. It was peak euphoria, the kind where magic happens. "Aaron!" she called out, her voice bursting through the wind. "Join us. This is your truth too." Aaron's face softened, the rigid mask of anger melting as he stepped closer, his heart vulnerable and open. I don't want to lose them again," he admitted, voice trembling. "But maybe carrying the memories isn't losing them. Maybe it's honoring their spirit." "Yes." Ellen beamed, her heart soaring. "Together, we can honor everyone. Let their voices join ours. Let's bring back the joy alongside the pain." Suddenly, like the gesture of someone breaking a dam, their emotions flooded. Laughter erupted, tears mingled with rain, and togetherness steeped into every note they sang. With each verse, the chaos faded. The storm began to soften. The water pulled back, revealing the sand beneath, light shimmering through the shadow. A realization struck Ellen: this wasn't just a battle against nature, it was a celebration of who they were as a family. Were they strong enough to transform pain into love? Then the atmosphere shifted as a radiant warmth spilled from the horizon. The dark storm clouds started to part, revealing streaks of sunlight breaking through. The waves, while still crashing, lost some of their fury, dancing to the rhythm of their song. It was a marvelous paradox. The storm had played its role, but love and connection had ultimately triumphed. As their harmony peaked, Ellen let out a laugh that rang through the last jagged remnants of the storm. "See!" she shouted, heart full as she gazed around at her friends, enduring strength and fresh determination igniting the air. "We've transformed this moment. We're not just coming together for the past, we're crafting our future." "Love conquers all," Keith whispered with a smile, and Ellen knew without a doubt he was right. Thus, standing together on that drenched sand, with the rain now easing into a gentle mist, their spirits surged. With one final burst of exhaled breath, they belted the last lines, not just a homage to older days but a promise for the endless adventures that lay ahead. "We are together. From now until forever." The beach house, weathered yet full of life, echoed back their resolve. In that instant, Ellen knew it wasn't merely about repairing a building. It was about rebuilding their bonds, connecting over the love that had always been there, lying quietly beneath layers of sorrow. As they stepped back inside the beach house, a new luminescence enveloped them. The air felt lighter, as if forgiveness had been released alongside their laughter. Ellen beamed at the faces around her, radiant with joy, pride, and connection. From darkness into light, every heart now glowed with hope, as if the love they had ignited within would surface each time they returned to this place. "Let us promise to return," Amy said, naming. "Not just for reunions, but to keep this spirit alive." "Yes." The chorus erupted, laughter spilling into the room like confetti. "We'll gather, we'll share, we'll remember." With that promise echoing in her ears, Ellen's heart overflowed. Each growing friendship was a ray of light, as vivid and powerful as the sun breaking through the horizon. Thus, they turned toward the sea, embarking on their next chapter, hearts in unison, emboldened by a love that had transformed their reunion into a lifetime mission. No storms could ever tear them apart again. Now, as you close this chapter, let me urge you, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support for our incredible series. Don't wait not even one more second to share this journey with friends who need to see this transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and comment your thoughts and feelings about this amazing ending. Your support keeps our stories alive.